Most traders spend their lives hunting for something rare in the market. A hidden indicator, a secret pattern, a perfect entry. But the truth is uncomfortable, and that's why most people never accept it. The rarest edge in trading has nothing to do with the market. Legendary traders didn't succeed because they saw something others couldn't see on a chart. They succeeded because they thought, perceived, and responded to uncertainty differently. They operated from mindsets so uncommon that average traders don't even realize those mindsets exist. That's why these mindsets are rarely talked about. They don't sell hope, they don't excite the ego, they don't promise certainty. Instead, they quietly remove the emotional noise that destroys consistency. What you're about to hear isn't about making more money tomorrow. It's about why some traders stop being affected by fear, hesitation, and revenge, while others never escape them. These are not motivational slogans. They are internal operating systems. And if even one of them truly clicks, the market will never feel the same again. Most people come to the market believing that success belongs to the person who can predict correctly. They assume that if they could just be right more often, right about direction, timing, or the next move, everything would fall into place. This belief feels logical, even responsible, but it quietly sets a trap that keeps traders emotionally reactive, inconsistent, and frustrated year after year. Legendary traders operate from a completely different internal framework. They don't measure themselves by how often they're right. They measure themselves by whether they are aligned with their rules, their risk parameters, and their understanding of probabilities. This difference may sound subtle, but it changes everything about how a trader experiences the market. The need to be right is not a trading requirement, it's an emotional requirement. It comes from the ego's desire for validation and safety. When a trader needs to be right, every trade becomes a personal statement. A win feels like approval, a loss feels like rejection. The market stops being a neutral environment and becomes a judge. And once that happens, objectivity disappears. Alignment removes that struggle entirely. When a trader is aligned, the outcome of any single trade loses its emotional charge. The trader has already accepted risk, already defined what success means, and already committed to a process that does not depend on individual results. There is no internal argument because the decision was made before the trade ever existed. This is why legendary traders can execute with calm precision even after a loss. They are not trying to recover emotionally. Nothing was damaged in the first place. The loss was not a mistake, it was simply one expression of probability. When alignment replaces the need to be right, losses stop being threats and start being information. Most traders don't realize that hesitation is not caused by lack of knowledge. It's caused by internal conflict. One part of the mind sees an opportunity. Another part wants certainty, comfort, and reassurance. That conflict produces hesitation, second-guessing, late entries, and early exits. The trader believes the problem is fear, but fear is only the symptom. The real problem is misalignment. Alignment means that your beliefs, rules, and actions are not fighting each other. It means you have fully accepted that uncertainty is not a flaw in trading. It is the very nature of the environment. Once that acceptance is real, not intellectual, the mind stops searching for guarantees. There is nothing left to wait for. Legendary traders don't enter trades because they feel confident. They feel confident because they enter trades according to their rules. Confidence is not something they generate emotionally, it is something that emerges naturally from consistency. When you do the same thing over and over without emotional interference, the mind relaxes. It no longer needs to protect you from uncertainty because you've already embraced it. Being aligned also means that discipline is no longer forced. Most traders try to be disciplined by using willpower. They promise themselves they will follow the rules next time. But willpower always fails under emotional pressure. Alignment doesn't rely on willpower at all. It relies on clarity. When rules are clear, risk is predefined, and outcomes are accepted in advance, there is nothing to negotiate in the moment. The trader is not deciding whether to follow the rules. They are simply executing what has already been decided. This is why legendary traders often describe their best trading as effortless. Effortlessness is not luck or talent. It is the absence of internal resistance. The need to be right also distorts perception. When a trader wants a trade to work, they start seeing what they want to see. Information that supports the position feels important. Information that contradicts it gets ignored. The trader believes they are analyzing, but they are actually defending a belief. Alignment removes that distortion because there is nothing to defend. When you are aligned, the market is allowed to do whatever it wants. You are not trying to control it. You are simply participating according to a predefined edge. This is a profound psychological shift. Control is replaced by cooperation. Resistance is replaced by acceptance. Legendary traders understand that consistency does not come from improving prediction. It comes from eliminating emotional interference. And emotional interference always comes from unmet expectations. When you expect a trade to win, a loss hurts. When you expect certainty, uncertainty feels dangerous. Alignment removes expectations entirely. This is why legendary traders can take the same setup 10 times in a row without emotional buildup. They are not hoping. They are not demanding. They are allowing probabilities to express themselves. Each trade is independent. The past does not influence the present. The present does not need to justify itself. Most traders live inside their last trade. A win makes them confident. A loss makes them cautious. Their state of mind constantly shifts, which means their execution constantly shifts. Alignment stabilizes the internal environment. The trader becomes emotionally consistent, and as a result, behavior becomes consistent. Being aligned also changes how mistakes are perceived. A mistake is no longer a loss. A mistake is a violation of rules. This distinction is critical. Legendary traders don't judge themselves by profit and loss alone. They judge themselves by execution quality. If the rules were followed, the trade was successful regardless of outcome. This removes self-criticism from the process. There is nothing to punish, nothing to regret. Learning becomes objective instead of emotional. Growth accelerates because the mind is not busy defending itself. The market is an environment of endless opportunity, but only for those who stop demanding that it make them feel good. Legendary traders are aligned with the reality that uncertainty cannot be eliminated, controlled, or negotiated with. It can only be accepted and managed. When alignment becomes the priority, the need to be right fades naturally. There is no dramatic effort to let go of ego. It simply becomes irrelevant. The trader no longer asks, "Was I right?" The only question that matters is, "Did I execute my edge?" And when that becomes your standard, the market stops being a psychological battlefield. It becomes a professional environment, neutral, impersonal, and full of opportunity for those who are internally aligned. This is why legendary traders look calm under pressure. They are not brave, they are not fearless, they are simply not conflicted. Their minds are not split between desire and discipline. Everything is pointing in the same direction. Alignment is the real edge. It is invisible, unexciting, and rarely talked about. But without it, no strategy works consistently. With it, even a simple edge can produce extraordinary results over time. You don't need to be right to succeed. You need to be aligned. Once that happens, the market no longer tests your emotions. It simply reflects your consistency back to you. Most traders believe their greatest challenge is emotional control. They talk about fear, greed, hesitation, revenge, and overconfidence as if these emotions are enemies that must be defeated. They assume that successful traders are somehow better at suppressing feelings, staying calm under pressure, or forcing discipline through sheer willpower. This belief sounds reasonable, but it leads traders into an endless struggle they can never truly win. Legendary traders do not fight their emotions. They don't try to control fear or eliminate greed. Instead, they design their trading in a way that remove the need for intense emotions to appear in the first place. This distinction is critical. Emotions are not the problem, they are signals. When emotions dominate trading decisions, they are pointing to something deeper that has not been resolved. Fear does not arise because the market is dangerous. Fear arises because the trader believes something important is at stake. That belief is rarely about money alone. It is about self-worth, validation, and the desire to feel safe. When a trader enters a position hoping the market will confirm their intelligence or justify their opinion, emotions naturally explode the moment uncertainty appears. Legendary traders eliminate that internal pressure before they ever place a trade. They are not emotionally strong, they are structurally prepared. Risk is predefined. Position size is appropriate. Loss is fully accepted in advance. Because nothing is being protected psychologically, there is nothing to defend emotionally. The mind has no reason to panic. Most traders underestimate how powerful this acceptance is. They say they accept risk, but their behavior reveals otherwise. They hesitate to enter, move stops, take profits early, or avoid taking the next valid setup after a loss. These actions are not technical mistakes, they are emotional responses to unaccepted risk. Acceptance is not something you declare, it is something you demonstrate through behavior. Legendary traders demonstrate acceptance by executing the same way regardless of recent outcomes. A loss does not cause them to shrink. A win does not cause them to expand. Their behavior remains stable because their emotional state remains neutral. This neutrality is often misunderstood as indifference. In reality, it is clarity. When emotions are removed from the decision-making process, perception becomes sharper. The trader sees what is actually happening instead of what they hope or fear might happen. There is no urgency, no pressure, no internal noise competing for attention. Most traders try to manage emotions in real time. They tell themselves to stay calm while their money is on the line and uncertainty is unfolding. This is impossible. The human brain is not designed to reason clearly under perceived threat. Once the fight or flight response is activated, logic disappears. Legendary traders avoid this trap by eliminating perceived threat before it can arise. They do this through structure. Rules are not guidelines, they are boundaries. Entries, exits, risk limits, and position sizing are decided in advance. When the moment comes, there is nothing to think about. Thinking is replaced by execution. And execution, when repeated consistently, builds trust in the process. Trust is the real foundation of emotional stability. When you trust your edge and your rules, you don't need to constantly check how you feel. Feelings become irrelevant. The trader no longer asks, "Do I feel confident?" The only question that matters is this my setup? This mindset is rare because it requires giving up emotional excitement. Many traders are unconsciously addicted to the emotional highs and lows of trading. The rush of a win, the drama of a loss, the intensity of uncertainty. These experiences create engagement. Legendary traders sacrifice excitement for consistency. They choose boredom over chaos. When excitement is removed, discipline becomes natural. There is no inner battle between impulse and restraint. The trader is not resisting temptation because temptation never appears. The structure has removed. This is why legendary traders often say that their best trading feels almost mechanical. This does not mean they lack passion or ambition. It means their passion is directed toward flawless execution, not emotional stimulation. They understand that the market is not a place for self-expression. It is a place for probability-based decisions repeated over time. Emotional reactions also disappear when expectations disappear. Most traders secretly expect each trade to work. When it doesn't, disappointment and frustration follow. Legendary traders expect nothing from any single trade. They know that outcomes are random within a probabilistic framework. The only thing they can control is whether they execute their edge consistently. When expectations are gone, losses lose their sting. A loss is no longer an event that needs to be emotionally processed. It is simply one data point in a long series. This perspective frees the trader from the emotional roller coaster that destroys focus and discipline. Another reason emotions dominate most traders is poor position sizing. When the size of a trade is too large, emotions become unavoidable. The trader is forced to care too much about the outcome. Legendary traders understand that emotional comfort is directly tied to risk. If you feel anxious, the risk is too high. No matter how good the setup looks, by keeping risk small and consistent, they protect their psychological capital. This allows them to stay engaged without stress, focused without tension, and disciplined without effort. Emotional control is not required when emotional overload never occurs. Over time, this approach rewires the trader's relationship with the market. Trading stops feeling like a personal challenge and starts feeling like a professional process. There's no need to prove anything. There's no need to recover losses emotionally or financially. Each trade stands on its own. Legendary traders know that the goal is not to eliminate emotions, but to make them irrelevant. When emotions are irrelevant, they no longer influence decisions. They may still exist in the background, but they have no authority. This is the quiet secret behind consistent performance. It is not about becoming tougher, smarter, or more disciplined. It is about removing the conditions that create emotional conflict. When those conditions are gone, the trader naturally operates with clarity and precision. In the end, the market does not reward emotional strength. It rewards emotional neutrality. Legendary traders achieve this not by controlling themselves, but by aligning structure, risk, and belief so completely that emotions no longer need to intervene. That is why they appear calm. That is why they execute without hesitation. And that is why consistency for them is not a struggle. It is the natural outcome of a system designed to protect the mind first and the account second. Most traders believe the hardest part of trading is finding the right strategy. They spend years searching for better indicators, cleaner entries, and more precise signals. But the real challenge reveals itself only after a valid setup appears. In that moment, the strategy is no longer the problem. The mind is. When the time comes to act, something inside hesitates. A voice appears, subtle but powerful, whispering warnings. What if this one fails? What if the market reverses again? What if you're wrong? That voice feels intelligent, protective, even responsible. But it is the same voice that prevents consistency. Legendary traders hear that voice too, but they do not obey it. They trust probabilities even when the mind screams stop. This ability is not courage. It is not recklessness. It is the result of deep internal alignment with how probabilities actually work. Legendary traders understand that the mind is wired for certainty, not statistical thinking. The brain wants assurance before aching action. It wants guarantees in an environment that cannot provide them. The moment a setup appears, the mind instinctively scans for safety. It looks for extra confirmation, perfect conditions, or emotional comfort. When it doesn't find them, it generates fear disguised as logic. The trader believes they are being careful, but they are actually avoiding uncertainty. Legendary traders see this reaction for what it is. They know that hesitation is not wisdom. It is the brain attempting to regain control. But in trading, control is an illusion. The market cannot be controlled, predicted, or negotiated with. It can only be approached probabilistically. Trusting probabilities means accepting that any single trade can fail, not intellectually but emotionally. It means placing a trade with full awareness that it might lose and being completely at peace with that outcome. This level of acceptance is rare because it goes against natural human conditioning. From an early age, people are taught to associate effort with reward and correctness with success. Trading violates both assumptions. You can do everything right and still lose. You can make money while being wrong repeatedly. This contradiction confuses the mind and triggers resistance. Legendary traders resolve this conflict by shifting their focus away from individual outcomes. They understand that edge only expresses itself over a series of trades. Any single trade is statistically meaningless. It has no authority to define skill, intelligence, or future performance. Once this belief is fully internalized, the mind loses its power to interrupt execution. The trader no longer waits to feel ready. Readiness is irrelevant. The only requirement is that the setup meets predefined criteria. When it does, the trade is taken without debate. Most traders try to feel confident before they act. Legendary traders act according to rules, and confidence follows as a byproduct. This sequence matters. Confidence that precedes action is emotional and unstable. Confidence that follows consistent execution is structural and durable. The voice that screams "stop" is often loudest after a loss. Recent pain sharpens fear and makes uncertainty feel dangerous. Many traders respond by skipping the next setup or reducing size inconsistently. They believe they are protecting themselves, but they are actually breaking the very chain of probability that could restore balance. Legendary traders do not allow recent outcomes to influence present decisions. Each trade exists in isolation. The market does not remember the last trade, and neither do they. This mental reset is not forced. It is the natural result of believing deeply in probabilities. Belief is the foundation here. Without belief, rules are fragile. When belief is weak, emotions rush in to fill the gap. Legendary traders build belief not through hope but through evidence, backtesting, journaling, and repeated observation of how their edge performs over time. Because of this evidence, they trust their system even when the emotional experience is uncomfortable. Discomfort does not signal danger. It signals unfamiliarity with uncertainty. Legendary traders allow discomfort to exist without acting on it. This is where most traders fail. They mistake emotional discomfort for intuition. They think the hesitation means something is wrong. In reality, it means the trade matters too much to them emotionally. Legendary traders have trained themselves to see discomfort as noise, not information. Trusting probabilities also requires strict risk control. When risk is small and consistent, the emotional cost of being wrong is manageable. The mind does not need to scream because the consequences are contained. Legendary traders never place themselves in a position where a single trade can cause emotional damage. This is why their execution remains stable. They are not trying to be brave. They are not overriding fear through force. They have removed the conditions that would make fear overwhelming. Over time, repeated execution under uncertainty rewires the mind. The brain learns that nothing catastrophic happens when a trade loses. It learns that uncertainty is survivable. Gradually, the screaming voice quiets, not because it was silenced, but because it lost its purpose. Legendary traders reach a point where hesitation feels unnatural. Acting according to probabilities becomes the default response. They no longer seek reassurance from the market. They trust the process they have committed to. This trust is not blind. It is grounded in preparation and experience. They know their numbers. They know their risk. They know what to expect statistically. Because of that, the emotional experience of trading becomes flat and neutral. Neutrality is often mistaken for lack of engagement. In reality, it is peak performance. When the mind is quiet, attention sharpens. Decisions become clean. Execution becomes consistent. The trader stops reacting to the market and starts responding according to plan. This shift marks the transition from amateur to professional. The market no longer dictates behavior. The system does, trusting probabilities even when the mind screams stop. Is the final psychological threshold. On the other side of it lies consistency. Not because losses disappear, but because their emotional power does. When that happens, trading stops being a test of nerve and becomes a test of discipline. And discipline, once rooted in belief and structure, no longer feels like effort. It feels like alignment. That is why legendary traders look calm in moments that paralyze others. They are not immune to fear. They simply no longer listen to it. They have learned that the voice demanding certainty has nothing useful to say in a probabilistic world. In the end, the market does not reward hesitation. It rewards those who are willing to act without guarantees, trust their edge over their emotions, and allow probabilities to unfold without interference. That trust is rare. But once it is developed, the mind stops screaming, and trading finally becomes what it was always meant to be, a process, not a prediction. In trading, the greatest edge is not found in strategies, indicators, or predictions. It is found in the mind. Legendary traders succeed because they align with their rules, remove the need for emotions, and trust probabilities even when fear screams. Consistency emerges not from being right, but from executing with clarity, discipline, and acceptance. The market rewards those who act from preparation rather than reaction. Master these mindsets, and trading stops being a battle. It becomes a reflection of your calm, deliberate, and aligned approach.